popular topic with the producers and everyone here on Breakfast Television. Should you go back to work or should you stay home with your child? What makes sense money-wise? Bruce Sellery here this morning talking about the dollars and cents of daycare. Bruce, of course, a columnist, personal finance expert. We're crunching the numbers, figuring out, okay, when is daycare too expensive to make it worthwhile to go back to work? That's the topic of an in-depth article in the November issue of Moneysense magazine. The article is called Who's Watching the Kids by Romana King. Bruce is here to make sense of the daycare dilemma, and wow, this was a red-hot topic.
Yeah, it's like throwing a grenade into the lunchroom. Everybody's got an opinion, and it's a big decision, both from a head perspective, the money, and from a heart perspective. These are our kids we're talking about.
You drop them off, you go to work, and then they're there, and you want them to be, get the most stimulation that they should, all those things. So.
And it is expensive, right? So Moneysense crunched the data nationally. Alberta is not the most expensive. It's behind Ontario and BC, but it's still on average for a 0 to 18-month-old kid, $900 a month.
900,
which, if you talk to people anecdotally, that seems cheap compared to what a lot of people pay, but the range is really broad. So you could get a great day home for less than that, and you could pay a heck of a lot more if your kid is in some sort of, Montessori school.
Like a Montessori style. Okay, And 18 to 30 months, 561, 30 months to 5 years, 535. Okay, so how do we decide? Okay.
On the head. Front. So the math brain. Number one is what's the take-home pay going to be? Versus what you would be paying in daycare. Number two, what are the benefits that you might be missing? Work benefits like health care, drug. If you've got two people,
you don't even think of that.
You don't think about that. But if you've got two people who work, but one works on their own, or one works for a company that doesn't have a lot of benefits, the parent that stays home, those benefits might actually be worth a fair bit to your family.
Like the dental and all that stuff.
The third one that people don't consider is what happens in my career. So is it going to be really easy for me to pop back on the track and have the job that I always had after being off for 5 to 10 years? Or is it going to be really hard? Is a ship going to sail? So those are the things on the math front. Then on the heart front, the less tangible stuff is, do I want to be home? And some people, that is a real emotional call for them. And other people...
You're talking about the mental stimulation stuff, right?
The mental stimulation. And is it important to me? Kids have a broad range of needs. Our daughter was super independent, super extroverted. She was totally game to be in an environment with other kids very early. For some kids, that's not what's best for them, and therefore it's not what's best for the parents. So work stimulation, and also what are the needs of your kid? Sure.
Okay, so we've decided that we are going to put our child in daycare. How do we find?
Well, you need to suit up.
Okay.
You need to suit up. You need to suit up early, because it's big. I mean, I remember touring daycares, and I went into one, and I was so optimistic. It's my diluted optimism, and I'm walking around this place, and it was a home daycare, and I thought, she should be on Hoarders. The house was that, and then she said to me, well, I serve a lot of soup to the kids, and I could just imagine these vast cans of soup which she would sort of stirring over her stove. So that was not a fit. And then I toured another one, and we were there for years. We still go back. Even though Abby's too old, we still go back and visit, and it's the most wonderful experience.
That's a great
But you have to really get out there. I would talk to parents. Parents know everything. So just go to a playground and park yourself and find out what people do. But the last tip I'd have, which may seem odd, is put on the charm offensive.
Really?
Because there is an enormous amount of discretion here in terms of how waiting lists are done. Parents can put in a good word for you, but also with the daycares themselves, there is some discretion. And are you going to be the great parent who is helpful and volunteering and around and a positive force, or are you going to be the finger-waggy one who wonders why the daycare is consuming so many diapers that you've been bringing in? And you've seen both those people at pick-up and drop-off, right? You want to be on the happier end of the spectrum, because that can be helpful.
Okay, now what about, what do you have to say to people who say, I'm going to pay whatever it takes?
I am concerned about that.
Okay,
Because some people say money is no object, spare no expense, and I am concerned about that, because what you're doing is you're making a trade-off. So you want to find the best care that you can afford within your financial circumstance, but don't steal from your 15-year-old kid who now you can't afford rep hockey for
Sure.
because you spent it all on this extraordinary daycare experience when they were younger. Now, I mean, it's really, it's a very difficult call. It's so personal. It differs dramatically if you've got 1 kid or 2 or 3 because the costs can multiply. But think about it from both a head perspective and from a heart perspective.
your heart.
I mean, really, there is no great solution.
Sure.
We live in a country where it's just very hard to find
Yeah.
great care for kids, and certainly impossible to find great care that costs nothing, because we just don't have that here.
If people want to find out more about you, Bruce, how do they do that?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Bruce Sellery, but
Yeah.
most importantly, go to moneysense.ca, and any personal finance question they have, do a little search, because we've written about it.
Yeah.
That's what we do
It's
at
true.
Moneysense. We
It's
just
true.
write about everything.
There you go. It's the November issue, by the way. The Daycare Dilemma is, well, you can digest it all by reading this for sure. Good to see you again,
Thanks
Bruce.
for the invitation.